स्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवत्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्त्वन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्तु निवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Let's chant Om Namashivaya for a few minutes. Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya, Om Namashivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, 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 Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Namah Shivaya, Om. So we start a short 5-class segment on a new text called Sri Pancakshari Vidya, which I had written to you about. So let us go into it. This is a text which has several parts to it. It has 5 parts to it. So I will describe the 5 parts, and then we will go into a little bit of an analysis of the first part, which is the analysis of the meaning of the Pancakshari Namashivaya. So Namashivaya is called the 5-syllable mantra, and it is called Mantra Raja. Here also in the reference is several times to what is called Mantra Raja. So Mantra Raja means the king of mantras, the best amongst the mantras. So mantra itself is a very, very beautiful, very important, very auspicious thing. And on top of that, if it is which is one of the best mantra, not one of the best mantras, then what to speak of it? It is just enormous. So the word mantra is interesting. So it says, Mananat trayate iti mantra. Mananat trayate. So here it is said, we should really see the importance of the word mantra. So the pure recitation of a mantra itself is a blessing. It's very auspicious. It's your mind resolves, and some of the issues that we have in our life are pushed back, and you have a sense of peace. And reciting the name of Ishvara is a very auspicious thing. So any mantra is recitation of the mantra itself is very auspicious. But if you were to do mananam on it, then you have your blessings increase many, many times. Mananam means once you understand the meaning of it. So mananam means to actually, it's interesting, not only should you know the meaning, but which is shravanam, but you actually think about it and you bring it into your lives. And so that is what the mananam is. So he says mananat, by the doing manana on the mantra, then what does it do? Trayate. Trayate means it protects you. So mantra, the meaning of mantra is by reciting which, by understanding the meaning of which, and thinking about which, it gives you a certain protection which is not available anywhere in the world. We can have some temporary protection in the house. If a storm comes, then you can close the windows. There is some protection is there in many ways. Artha, Kama, Dharma, all those kinds are protections. We will talk about that in today's class. But this kind of a protection from straight away from Ishvara is invaluable. And so this is the meaning of the word mantra. And on top of that, this is called Mantra Raja. And so the Mantra Raja means the king amongst the mantras is Namashivaya. So here Om is actually added on to it as the very name of Ishvara and the name of Brahman. But the Ucharanam is Namashivaya. So this is called Pancakshari. So Pancakshari means the one which has 5 syllables. So as you know very well that the syllable is the one that has a vowel. If a letter does not have a vowel, it is not considered to be a syllable. It is a letter, but not a syllabic letter. So here, Namashivaya. So these are the 5. Nama So here the Visarga, Namaha, the Visarga is not counted as a syllable. So the Visarga is something which you enunciate with the breath, with a conscious effort to have the breath. So Nama, otherwise it will be Nama. But here's Namaha. So the Ha is the aspiration. So that's called Visarga. And so that is not considered to be a syllable. So but the Na, the Ma are 1 and 2, then Shi, then Va, and Ya are the 5 syllables. So that's why it is called Pancakshari. Pancakshari, the one that has 5 syllables. The mantra that has 5 syllables is called Pancakshari. And Om is added to it because obviously it is all about the name of the person that we are enunciating, which is Ishvara. So that's added to it. So that's the Pancakshari. Anyway, before I go further into it, let us look at the structure of this particular text. And so that might be interesting to just look at it. And as I mentioned to you, and you may have seen this, it has a lot of material in it. And for some reason, this has not been formatted very well. I think one of our students, Chavla Joshi, also wrote to me and she says, I'm having difficulty and it's not formatted well. And I completely agree with her. This is a rare, poor job of formatting. The material is out there, but somehow the people that published it did not have the right subtitles and so on. So it's not easy to really go through it. Anyway, that being said, this is a very interesting, useful, helpful book. Because I have gone through it a couple of times. I think I got this in 2011, and I think I even wrote down I studied it in 11, 13, and then 16. So I thought that since we have 5 weeks in between the completion of our previous text, Brahma Sutra, and our next text, which will be hopefully in early July, we can at least talk about this text. So a little background on this text. So the Pancakshari Vidya has 23 shlokas. And these 23 shlokas were composed by Sri Padmapadacharya, who is one of the 4 immediate principal Shishyas of Adi Shankara. Right? And he is considered to be, first of all, the oldest of the 4 and also the most devoted to Adi Shankara. The legend has it that once Adi Shankara sent message to Padmapadacharya, and I think he's also called Sunandana. His original name was Sunandana. And so the message was sent to him to please come and there's some class starting or something like this, so please come as soon as possible, or for some seva of Adi Shankara. And he started to quickly cross the river, unaware of the fact that the river was very fast and could be deep and he could really drown in it. He was so devoted that he left everything and he started to cross. So the legend has it that Adi Shankara, with his powers, his siddha powers, was able to put lotus leaves on the river so that Padmapadacharya could put his feet on the lotus leaves and not drown. This is the name Padmapada. One who has whose feet are touching the Padma. That's the name of the of this person. But he has not written extensively as some of his others. Sureshwaracharya, of course, is the most famous disciple of Adi Shankara. Nevertheless, he has composed a few very excellent verses, and this is one of them. So he has composed Pancakshari Vidya in 23 shlokas. So this is one of them, and we will not. I'm just going to give you a sample because in the short time that we have, we're not going to have time to even touch the Pancakshari Vidya, let alone some of the other things that are part of this text that I will talk about. So we will not be able to do that. So in some ways, I think my objective of taking these 5 classes is to just give you an introduction. This is what happened in my life with Swami Dayanandji, is that what I really find amazing is the introduction he has given to the great set of literature that we have. Otherwise, I would never have known. And I remember from the very beginning, I felt that as I grow older, I am not going to have any problems in engaging myself in intellectual curiosity, let alone the phalam of the Vidya. And I think that's what's happening. I've got people ask me, have you read this book? Have you read that book? And I have to, I don't want to insult anybody, but I don't have any time for any other books because our own literature is so rich. And if you have studied a little bit of Sanskritam and or some vernacular languages like Hindi, which is my mother tongue, that can explain the Sanskritam, you are in heaven. So my objective is to just give you an introduction to the richness of our literature, and this is a good example of that. And so I'll show you what all the things it has, and so that's my objective of teaching these 5 classes. It is not to take a text in great depth. It is simply to give you an outline of what is available so that at your own time you can decide on your own capability and so on. For example, this is only available, as far as I know, in the translation of Hindi. I'm sure that it is available in other languages. I have not heard. I don't know all the details. So it depends on your language, your capability, and so on. But you can peruse through at your own leisure as time permits. That's all my objective is. It is really more of an introduction rather than an in-depth treatment of this. All right, so let's go into the structure of this text. We'll take a little bit of time to understand that. So as I said, the first thing is, which is the core of the text, is the 23 shlokas composed by Sri Padmapadacharya. Okay. Then, less than 100 years ago, as Swami Maheshananji points out in his introduction, this is all from Swami Maheshananji's introduction. Less than 100 years ago, there was a person called Harinama Datta. And he was born in a town in Haryana called Jagadhari. And so I was looking up in the map because I know I'm from Punjab, so I was aware of the. Sometimes people will say he's from Jagadhri. So like that, I knew that there was a town called Jagadhri, but I looked in the map yesterday. So it's about maybe 100, maybe even less than that miles from Haridwar and Rishikesh. So of course, those are in Uttarakhand. So now it is in Haryana. So this is the town. So this gentleman was born in Jagadhri, less than 100 years old. Maybe in early 1900, something like that. I don't know. I'm not sure of it exactly. So he wrote a commentary on these 23 shlokas in Sanskrit, of course. And though that is called Subodhini. Subodhini. Subodhini means the one that makes it easier to understand. Because all these shlokas are cryptic. They're very difficult to understand unless somebody can open up the doors to it. And so the Subodhini is a commentary by Sri Harinamadatta on the Pancakshari Vidya. Okay, so that's number 2. Then, to make it easier for us, Swami Maheshananda ji wrote a Hindi translation of 2 things. One is the Panchakshari. So we will go through that today. So he wrote a Hindi translation of straight away from Panchakshari. Not the Subodhini, but just the Panchakshari. So this is one. He also wrote a Hindi translation of Subodhini. So that's the first part of this book. That is the main part of the book, actually. And Subodhini segments the various thoughts of the 23 shlokas into 9 understandable meanings. 9 of them. He rearranges them and so on. And those 9 meanings are all given in here. And a very interesting thing, on page 70, either Swami Maheshananji or one of his staff people or something made a spreadsheet of these 9 different meanings of Panchakshari. I'll show it to you. You may have seen this, I don't know. Here we go. You look at this. This is a spreadsheet. It's in an older form of the modern spreadsheet that gives you the rows and columns and neatly summarizes the meaning of these 9 meanings of Panchakshari. Anyway, so this is the first part of this text. And that means the original Sanskrit, the Subodhini, the Hindi translation of the original Sanskrit, Hindi translation of Subodhini, all together plus a spreadsheet, 9 different meanings and so on. That was the original Pancakshari Vidya, as Swami Maheshananji was pointing out. Then a funny thing happened. He also found out, he must have been researching the other writings of Sri Harinamadatta and so on, found out that there are some other things that Sri Datta has given which are very connected to the Panchakshari Vidya and very useful. So I would say all the things that we have talked about today is only part one. There are 5 parts to this book. Just giving you an introduction. We are not going to go through that. I think we will take samples of that so that you have an idea of what we are talking about. Okay, so that was part 1. Part 2, which is given on page 74 to 77, I made a note of it yesterday, is, and this is the reason that I actually decided that after we finish the Brahma Sutras, this might be a good book for us to at least know about. So the second part from page 74 to 77 is an explanation of Brahma Sutra, how the Brahma Sutra has been, all the sutras, the essence of it is actually included in the Pancakshari Vidya. Well, this is something that we have talked about this so much so that and that means that if you look at the enormous literature of Hinduism, of Vedic thought, what you find is that they all have a consistent view of what we are supposed to do in our lives, what this whole life is all about. Not only this life, but where does the next life and the Swargaloka and all of those fit into this picture? What is the essence of it? So this essence of the very purpose of our living, you can say. You can say that what is, this is often the question is, what is the purpose of our life? Okay. All right, do you have the time? Sit down. Let's talk about that. This is what is called Tatparya Nishchaya. What is the central theme of it? And how do you find what the central theme is? Can you just simply say, I think central theme is knowing Ishvara. Another one said, no, the central theme is doing the right karma. All your actions should be dharmic action. That is the main purpose of life. Main purpose of the life should be to go to Swargaloka. So like that you can have different views on what the central theme is. So now the question is, how do you ascertain? How do you decide what the central theme is? So this is where at least, you should decide on the rules of determining the central theme. After that, this is kind of like a filter. So once you agree on the filter, then you can apply the filter at the various views of the central theme and say, this one, no, this doesn't really fulfill this filter. So one that completely fulfills the filter, which filter has already been discussed and agreed to by everybody, that becomes the central theme. That filter is the one I ask you to review. And this is an important thing that we should really keep in mind. So this is what is called Shuttling Vichara. Shudlingam. Lingam means lingyate iti lingam. Jnayate iti lingam. By which something is known. By what hints? These are hints. Well, hints means that they gives you, okay, go there on that side. So that's a hint. Or if you want to go, you go towards Los Angeles, then you have to turn right. If you go on from 280, then you go on 101. So that's the hint. That's the lingam. And you keep proceeding on 101, you will reach Los Angeles. So like that, these are lingams. So there are 6 lingams that are important for us to use as filters to do what? To determine the Tatparya. Tatparya means what is the purpose? What are we talking about? What's the essence of it? So those are the Shadlingas that I asked you to do some homework on, and I hope you have done so. And so as we go through the other parts of this text, this becomes a very important thing to keep in mind. You almost, I would think, write it down on a piece of paper. And we will also cover it to a certain degree, but this becomes an important knowledge tool for you to understand how to determine what the main purpose is. And those are, as you know, we in the Brahma Sutra class we went through this. So it says there is a verse where all of this has been composed. It says upakrama upasamharao abhyaso purvata phalam arthavado papatti cha lingam tatparya nirnaye. Upakrama upasamharao avabhyaso purvatam phalam arthavado papatti cha lingam tatparya nirnaye. So Tatparya Nirnaya means in ascertaining the Tatparya, these are the 6 lingams. And what are those? Just very briefly knowing that. One is Upakrama Upasamhara. So there are actually two parts to this first lingam. Upakrama Upasamhara. Upakrama means the start. The introduction is called Upakrama. Upasamhara means a recapturing of the main theme. The beginning and the end. Just like in anything else, just like supposing, you have these, you find that some of our local colleges have these talk series of people that come and talk about whatever topic it is. And these are long talks, 1.5, 2 hour long talks. Like Dianza College here in Cupertino, they have a talk series that they do. A lot of the other people are beginning to have that as well. So when a person comes and talks for like 2.5 hours, or 2 hours, and not 2.5 hours, whatever, how do they do that? A good talk will say, I am going to now talk about this subject. So you have to provide a brief overview of what your objective is. Usually it is given in the title itself. But within the title you'll say, my talk is about the following subject. I'm going to talk about this. This is called Upakrama. Then Upasamhara means that after the talk is over, before saying goodbye, the speaker has to say, so what we have talked about today means Upasamhara. Now if the Upakrama says one thing and the Upasamhara says something else, that means that there is something missing. The loop has not been closed. So the loop has to be closed. So this is what is called Upakrama Upasamhara. So when we look at the material that we are studying, we have to say, where is the Upakrama and where is the Upasamhara? And this is where the pointing out by Sri Harinamadatta and others is so useful, because in fact we will see this. I don't know if it will come to today, but there is a Shuttling Vichara for the Upanishads. In fact, you know what, let's just go through that. So part 2, page 74 to 75 is the explanation of Brahma Sutra reflected in the Pancakshari Vidya. This is part 2. Part 3, which starts on page 80, is the Shuttling Vichara in the Upanishads. And it's a very, very beautiful thing. I briefly studied it. And if you ever have a chance, you could see this. So it starts with, again, not easily, I wish they had done a better job of starting a new section on a new page or something like that. It's just been a problem. So here he talks about Isha Upanishad, Katha Upanishad, Kena Upanishad, Mundaka Upanishad, and points out in these Upanishads where is the Upakrama Upasamhara. How will you find that out? So it goes through all of that. Phenomenal. And so this is part 3. Part 4 of this text is the same thing for Bhagavad Gita. And if anything else, at least we should look at that, because we are all familiar with Bhagavad Gita. We may not have studied some of the other Upanishads, I don't know. I think we have quite a few of them. But on page 89 is the part 4, which is the Shuttling Vichara for the Tatparya Nishchaya for Bhagavad Gita. So there also, as you know very well, the interpretation of Bhagavad Gita are many. Everybody thinks the Bhagavad Gita talks about how to be a successful person. Oh, really? Is that what it is? That's the main thing. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but you find there are a number of people who are teaching Bhagavad Gita for CEOs. I have a friend who does that. He's very successful. He's doing very well. Bless him, that's wonderful. But to get the meaning of Bhagavad Gita, to be a successful CEO, is not the main purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. You're welcome to use that for your everyday life. That's wonderful. But the main purpose of the Gita has to be ascertained. And so there is a Shuttling Vichara of the Bhagavad Gita. That's also given here on page 89. Then, so that's part 4. The last part, which is really detailed and very exhaustive and wonderful. I haven't really studied all of it, but I just looked at it. Part 5 is page 90 to the end of the book 136. And we actually did this in Vaiyasika Nyayamala already. When we studied that in Vaiyasika Nyayamala, I wasn't aware of the fact that it is in such detail given in here. Or we could have done this as well. So it's really very similar to it. Is a brief explanation of all the 4 chapters of Brahma Sutra, Adhyayas, and a brief explanation of each of the 4 sections within the Adhyaya, padas. 16 padas altogether. And it goes through each one of them, what is the tatparya for it. It kind of does the Shadlinga Vichara for the tatparya. I don't know if it does in its entirety or separately. I don't know. But anyway, these are the 5 parts of this book. So Swami Maheswaranji points out that I think he must have published a section. Did he do that? Let me double check. Yes, actually, no, I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyway, what I was going to say was that it's possible that initially he had not added these other parts to the book. But he said, the more I researched, I found these are excellent materials that has not been done anywhere. So he included that as part of the entire Vidya. So this Pancakshari Vidya book actually has 5 different sub-books to it. All in these 136 pages. A lot of good material. So anyway, with that, a brief introduction to the structure of this text is now over. And now we can go into the main topic of these of this Pancakshari Vidya. So let's go into that. Okay. So what I will do is I will simply pronounce the particular shloka from Padmapadacharya ji's 23 shlokas. Just briefly do that. Then I will translate the translate in English what the meaning of Swami Maheshananda ji's of his commentary on this one is, which is called Mantra Raja Prakasha. Mantra Raja is the Pancakshari, Namashivaya is the Mantra Raja, and so the one that throws light on it, reveals it, is called Mantra Raja Prakasha, composed by Swami Maheshananda ji. So in a paragraph, and so I will maybe say that in Hindi and then translate that into English. Okay, so let's go. Let's start with. So I don't think we will do all the 23. Now I'm certain that we will not all do all 23 shlokas, but a few shlokas. So this is the most important shloka. First one is obviously the most important one. So let's look at that. So this is given on page 8 of this book for those of you that may be following it. Tyago hi namaso vachya anandah prakrites tatha phalam pratyaya vachyam syat tyajyam patra phaladikam. This is the first shloka. And then he's added another half a shloka as part of this explanation. So the commentators can do this. They can peel off certain segments of that to make it more intelligible, and all of that can be done. So now the first half of the second shloka is also included in here. Tyajyami idam sarvam chaturnamiha siddhaye. So I'll repeat it one more time. Tyago hi namaso vachya anandah prakrites tatha phalam pratyaya vachyam syat tyajyam patra phaladikam tyajami idam sarvam chaturnamiha siddhaye. This is the composition by Padmapadacharya ji. Okay. So first let me say that in Hindi for some of you that know Hindi. नमः शब्द का अर्थ वेदों में त्याग है. शिवाय शब्द से प्रकृति अर्थात शिव का अर्थ आनंद है, एवं प्रत्यय आय का अर्थ फल है. जैसे साधारण पूजा में भी पत्ते फूल आदि चढ़ाते हैं, वैसे ही मैं इस सारे इदम रूप से प्रतीयमान अर्थात दृश्य जगत का त्याग आनंद की प्राप्ति में के लिए करता हूँ. सालोक्य, सामीप्य, सायुज्य, साष्टी रूप से चारों प्रकारों के आनंद की सिद्धि हो, यह भाव है. Okay. So now the English translation of this. He says, in the Namashivaya, the word Namaha is famous in the Vedas for giving up. Tyagaha. Giving up something is called Nama. In this one, the most important meaning of the word Namaha, as we chant Namashivaya, is giving up. It has other secondary meanings that will come in one of the 9 different meanings of it. That will come later. But the most important one, so this is what is called Mukhyam versus Avantaram. Mukhyam means the main. Avantaram means supportive. All the other ones are supportive. But the main one is Mukhyam. So the Mukhya meaning is Tyaga. Namaha means Tyaga. Tyaga means to give up. Not be clinging to it, but the ability to let go of it. And we will go into this in detail in a minute. So this is the word Namaha. So in the word Shivaya, so as you know, those of you that know Sanskrit, this is the fourth case of the word Shiva. Shivaya. So you say Ramaya. So Ramaya means for the purpose of Rama. So here, so the fourth case is for the benefit of, for the purpose of Shiva. So Shiva is one. Then the fourth case is given by the pratyaya Aya. So Aya, Shiva plus Aya becomes Shivaya. And in this, Shiva is one thing. Then for Shiva is another thing. Because you can have a vibhakti of Shiva which says, you can say for in Shiva, Shivi, or you can Shivasya, of the Shiva. So you can have a different kind of vibhaktis. Vibhaktis means all the appositions. But for the purpose of doing that is the fourth one. So this is called Aya. So Shivaya. So now we can put it together. Shiva is what they say Prakriti. Prakriti here means, there are different meanings of the word Prakriti also, means Ananda. Ananda. So the main objective, you can say, Prakriti means the natural. What is natural to us is Ananda. This is what we all want. This is what we are all born from. And in the Taittiriya Upanishad it says, Anandam Brahmeti Vyajanat. May you know Ananda is the meaning of the word Brahma. Anandam Brahmeti Vyajanat. Anandadhi khalu imani bhutani jayante. All the beings are born of Ananda. Anandena jivanti. They live in the Ananda. Anandadhi khalu imani bhutani jayante. Anandena jivanti anandam prayatyabhishanti. They all go back into Ananda. Saisha bhargavi varuni vidya. Parame vyoman pratishtita. There's a passage in the Taittiriya Upanishad that does that. The main thing is, the word Shiva means Ananda. And so, our praying for Shiva means praying for Ananda. Our understanding of Shiva means that my own nature is Shiva Ananda. So this is the meaning of the word Shiva. And now Aya. Aya means, here he says Aya. So it could be either Aya or Aya. means the result. For the purpose of obtaining the result is the Shivaya. So the Shivaya means for obtaining the result. So now we can put the whole thing together. I give up. What we give up, we will see later. I am embracing Tyaga in order to obtain the result of Ananda. This is the meaning of Namashivaya. So Namaha means Tyaga, Shiva means Ananda, and Aya means for the purpose of Ananda. Om Namah Shivaya. This is the main reason for this mantra called Mantra Raja. Okay? That being the case, now we can say, we can understand the mantra. We can understand the shloka. So, Tyagaha hi namasaha vachya. So, namasaha means namaha. Of the namas. The meaning of the word vachya means the meaning. The direct meaning of namas is tyagaha. Anandaha prakates tatha. Similarly, Ananda is the meaning of the word Shiva. Phalam pratyaya vachyam syat. The result is for the obtaining of the phalam, which is Ananda. Tyajyam patra phaladikam. So Tyajyam patra phaladikam means that just like you give up certain samagri that you have, we'll go into that in a minute. Some things that you do for your puja, just like you give up. So you give that up. So in fact, let's just do that now. So let's look at so here's what the puja, the Vedic puja, any puja actually for that matter, but especially the Vedic puja is what is called yajna. When you go to the temple and either you do it yourself or you have a pujari do this for you. So what the pujari does is that you have different devatas that the pujari asks you, so what kind of a puja do you want to do? He says, I have had a lot of problems in my life and I would like to make sure that all those obstacles in my life, these certain obstacles keep coming up. So the pujari suggests that you should do Ganesha Puja. So you say, okay, let's do Ganesha Puja. So now you have Ganesha, who is the aspect of Ishvara that particularly removes obstacles from a person's life. So that is now the devata that I now bow to. Or supposing you say that I would like to, I'm studying for an exam and I would like my study to be fruitful, and so I would like to do a puja to Saraswati Puja. So the priest will say, okay, you want to do Saraswati Puja? I'll say, yes, okay. Alright, let's do Saraswati Puja. So then the Devi becomes the Saraswati. Like that, you can select what kind of puja you want to do, then, as normally you will see, the priest will say, please bring some fruits and flowers. And if you don't have them, then the priest can give it to you, but it will be better if you have the fruits and flowers that you offer. So the offering becomes a tyaga. So you actually, either from your own garden or you go into a local shop and you gather some material. And the gathering of the material which is yours at the moment is going to be given up to the devata as a symbol of tyaga. So you sit there and you chant the various verses and you offer the, so just like he says, patra phaladikam. That's what the word is, patra phaladikam. So patra means all the leaves and phala means fruits. And so that is given up as a tyaga. So without giving some kind of an offering to the Devi or Devata, the yajna is not complete. Not complete. So you say Vishnave Tvam Idam na Mama. This is an interesting thing. The Idam na Mama means definitely now this is no longer mine. So supposing you take lots of fruits and sweet things and so on and so forth. So you have 10 different mangoes and this, that or the other. You take this in a tokari and you offer it to the devata. And then now the pujari either keeps it for the temple or gives it to some people. You have no right to say, these are mine. They're not mine anymore. You have already given it to the devata. So that is it's the same structure here also. We will see that what do I give up? That's what I have to figure out. But you have to give up something. It's interesting, Swami, then, our acharyas say this. This is an important thing to see. In order to get a sense of completeness, purnam, to get a sense of moksha, not a sense of moksha, in order to get moksha, mukti, you should be prepared to give up everything. So it's a very funny situation, really. It's almost like an oxymoron. Because you're saying, I want to get everything. But before you get everything, you have to give up everything. This is the situation. This is what this teaching is all about. So, we all know this by now, and I think to close the loop, what it means is that my sense of a bondage, because bondage is, as we are going to talk about this in the next class also, the Kaivalya Upanishad, that text is going to come, that really what I have to give up is a sense of bondage. Giving up the sense of bondage means what? This is praptasya prapti, means that you are already full. You are already without any limits. Purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate. You are the very essence of fullness. But you are hanging on to a sense of bondage. So as soon as you give up the sense of bondage, the fullness is already there. It's not like you have to you have to import fullness. It's like, you have a bondage of the fact that I am nothing but this room space. This is me. And so it's a kind of like a bondage. And you want to say, I want to be I want to be a big hall. This is too small a room. You look at these other people who are going to the big hall, Carnegie Hall. What a lovely, huge space that it accommodates thousands of people. Here only a few people can come in. I'm nothing. So you say, what's your objective? You want to be big? Say, yes, I want to be very big. Can I tell you something? You are already as big as it can be. No. How can he tell you? You cannot tell me this is all, you're just praising me for nothing. I don't deserve that. I'm just a small person. No, you don't understand. I'm not praising you for anything. You are the biggest thing that you can be, which is the total space. But you have to give up the bondage of being an enclosed space. So this giving up is an important element to the understanding of the feeling of infinity. Because the finiteness, which is Dvaita, so the Advaita is not the absence of Dvaita, but despite Dvaita, it is Advaita. This is the message of Vedanta, and we're going to talk about this in more detail in the second class. So the Namashivaya, the main thing is to be prepared to give up something. What you need to give up, we'll discuss later. But the objective of this mantra raja is to obtain a sense of fullness by giving up something. This is the meaning of Namashivaya. And to obtain ananda, a certain peace of my own mind, where I am not beset by I need this, I need that. So the very fact that I need this and I need that is an expression of bondage. I'm not happy, but I gotta get this. Bondage. It's exactly like, you had a nice big meal. You were kind of like hungry the whole day, and where are we going to get the dinner and so on. Finally you had a wonderful dinner and you went to sleep. Now you've been thinking about, I'm hungry. So in the dream, you have a dream of you are really beset by hunger and nobody is giving you food and you are upset and you are looking from post to post to get some food. It's all about hunger. But the moment you get up in the morning, you don't feel hungry anymore. You had a nice sleep and there's no rush to eat anything because you are okay. You have a fullness already in you. So the imposition of bondage is like a dream, really. It is a dream. It's an overlay on top of that. So therefore, to obtain a natural sense of fullness, natural sense of infinity, natural sense of peace, you simply have to give up the obstructions that keep you from understanding that. That's all that needs to be done. The Namashivaya is to remind yourself to chant Om Namah Shivaya. The main purpose of this mantra is to keep in mind this is what I need to do. I am just clinging on to some ideas of I need this, I need that, and so on. You don't need anything. You are fullness as you are. So this is the Namashivaya. So the Ananda, the obtaining of Ananda, is the main purpose of it. So that is the first meaning of this. So now then the second thing is okay, so let's do this. Alright, so far what we have done is to briefly look at the shloka 1. The second shloka I think we will do later. Tyajami idamidam sarvam chaturnamiha siddhaye. So we will do later on. Let's just stick to the first shloka. So that shloka has been briefly enunciated. Now let us look at Subodhini. The Subodhini is the Vyakhya by Harinama Datta, which is in the form of a prose. So this one has different aspects of it, and each one the aspect is then translated by Swami Maheshananji. So this is still given on page 8. I'll just read a couple of lines for it, not much. Tyago namaha shabdasya vachyartaha sacha karma kanda shastre prasiddhaha etadyo annam sopakaranam namaha ityadau tyajami iti arthaha Shivaya iti atra prakritehe shiva shabdasya vachya anandaha Ananda upalakshitam vakshamanam arthadi chatushtayam cha Shivaya iti atra pratyayasya chaturthi vibhaktehe vachyarthaha phalam manobila, etc. etc. Okay? So now the Subodhini for the first shloka is given in 4 parts, called Varnakam. Subodhini is given in 4 parts called Varnakam each. Varnakam, I didn't know the exact meaning of the word Varnakam, so I went to the dictionary yesterday, and actually I went to to Google and did it. So it's very funny. It talks about Varnakam as a kind of like as a different, what is the English word for it? Different colors, you can even say. 4 different colors. There's another word that I was looking for, but I can't find it. So one of the 4 colors, or different segments. Shades, yes, that's the word I'm looking for. 4 different shades. You know, sometimes this often happens. My wife, she's an expert in, she's a designer, and so she's an expert in colors. So sometimes I'll say, oh, this is a nice red color, and she says, this is not a red color. So I said, no, it looks red to me. She says, there are various shades of red. This one is not that. It could be crimson or something like that. So these are called shades. So Subodhini has given 4 different shades to the meaning. And those are, let me just tell you what they are. Mangalam, auspiciousness. Vishaya, subject matter. Avantara Prayojanam, the secondary objective, and Mukhya Prayojanam, primary objective. These are the four Varnakam he goes through. So let's quickly go through at least. I think we can finish that. No, we may not be able to finish it. It's already 9:08. Anyway, let's just look at that. So, Mangalam means, Mangalam means is that the very chanting of Om Namashivaya conveys auspiciousness to you. Conveys a sense of Ananda, not the fullness of Ananda, but an entry into it. Goodness, auspiciousness to you. Very much like when you start to gather fruits and flowers to give to. I think I won't need it, so I'm just going to talk from here. Excuse me. So when you gather the flowers and fruits to take to a temple, the very gathering of that calms your mind down, that I'm doing something good. If you buy vegetables and fruits for some of your normal things, you are still beset with the worry of life. But here, the very thought that I'm taking this to a temple, and so already your mind is now absorbed in the very beauty of doing puja at the temple, that you're going to go there. You haven't gone there yet. You're collecting things. But that very act of collecting for the puja gives you a certain peace of mind, doesn't it? So here also it says that if in the study of the Vedanta you find out what the objective of my life is, and as you know, this is what is called Purusharthaha. Purusharthaha means the four kinds of things that we want in our life. And those, as you know, is Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha. These are the four things. So, gathering information about these four things and how to negotiate these four aspects of my life, which is Artha. We'll go into this in more detail maybe later on. Artha, Kama, Dharma towards moksha. So the very understanding of the structure of my life as to how I will go forward in reaching a sense of independence from dukkha gives you shanti. Gives you, this is what Mangalam is all about. That to really, and then of course the best thing is to be able to study it under someone who's committed to understanding this, who's committed to explaining this, who has already learned from his or her guru, gives you a certain Mangalam. So, actually this is interesting because, make a note of this. Normally, you would start a new text with a specific Mangalam. That I'm giving this to, I'm studying this for many of the texts really start with Mangalam. But certain texts, and this one is one of those, do not start with a Mangalam. Why? You are supposed to start with a Mangalam. Why? Here the author says, so Subodhini says, the whole thing is nothing but Mangalam. It's not as though you have to say, this is Mangalam, this is not. The very study of Om Namashivaya is Mangalam. How it is a Mangalam that you may not understand, but you should understand. But it is Mangalam. So you don't have to have some, before Om Namah Shivaya, you say, no, I'm going to do Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya itself is Mangalam. That's the main thing. So there it says that so the first, he spends a lot of time on explaining all this. I'm just giving you the gist of it. That really then you find that Artha, Kama, Dharma and Moksha are all part of the same process. Here, giving up of the Artha and Kama is the sadhana. Artha means, as you know, just you know all this, you should know all this. So, a very brief explanation of Artha, Kama, Dharma. Artha means anything that gives you security. Physical security, mental security, emotional security. One where you feel secure, I'm okay now. Now I have enough. I have enough money. This is called Artha. Kama means a sense of desire. I want that. And a sense of pleasure also. So this is what happens when people are very busy in, accumulating money, working hard, getting a job and so on. Once that is done to a certain extent, then you start saying, okay, what's next? So it's good food, then you have music and all these kinds of fun things. So this is also given under the Kama. So in life you have a sense of security and a sense of pleasure. Then comes Dharma, which is, so this is interesting, Dharma and Moksha can be looked at as Prayojanam. Prayojanam. So Dharma means my accumulating punyam, good deeds, so that my next life will be better than what I am now. So this is called Dharma. That you are accumulating good deeds, punyam, 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 so that I'm told that if you have enough punyam, then you can go to some Swargaloka. So this is called Dharma. And so even there also you give up. So all this is give up also. So supposing when you do some donation, you have some money, but you're ready to part with it. It's called Dharma. And so that is the third one. Moksha means, is there a way so that I don't have to go through this? In the Bhagavad Gita, in the 8th chapter, it talks about the punaravritti, that if you don't really do this very well, then you will have to come back as a human being in your next life and repeat the whole process all over again. And the other one is that if you do the study and to understand that you are the very essence of what Ishvara is, that mameva prapadyante, if you just you acquire me now, if you have the ability to do that, then you don't have to come back, because you've already acquired what the end point is. So this is called moksha. So therefore, in summary, Sri Datta says that both the Tyaga and Prayojanam, the Tyaga is in terms of sacrificing, and the Prayojanam is the very objective, are Mangala. So this is the first Varnika. Then the second Varnika, third and the fourth one, we'll briefly look into next time. I think we're running out of time. So with that, there is a Number one, an introduction to the 5 parts of this text, and also a brief understanding of the meaning of the word Namashivaya. So with that, we close the class today. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. I don't see the chat window. What happened? There must be some way to collapse it. Oh, this one. Full screen. Nope. Let me do this again. I don't see who's here. For some reason my chat window is not visible. To collapse it. Oh, this one. Full screen. Ah, okay. Default view. Now I can see who's there. Gajananam, you're back from India. That's good. You're right, Chola. This is not easy to read. So yes, Chola, I do understand that literally you don't have the book, and you don't need to for this purpose. It was just something that Sanjeev had suggested, so I gave you the link for it. But I mean, if you could go through it if you have it, but you don't need to. So, but for these 5 classes, you don't need the book. I'll explain the aspects of what I want to talk about without needing the book. Yeah, you're right, Shanti Kumar, that like playing the Nadaswaram in South India, Shahnai in North India, it is like Mangalam, no doubt about it. All right, I don't see any questions per se, so it's good to have you, and we will hopefully see you next week. Hari Om.